What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm gonna continue the teardown on the 59 CJ5 F-head engine rebuild. Got a piston and connecting rod right here. This is number 4. Show you how to take these apart, and we'll probably go ahead and fully disassemble the head and the rocker arm shafts, and then I'll pretty much be the full disassembly of the engine. And then moving forward from that, the videos after this will be inspecting, measuring, miking, all that good stuff. I started working on the block too in the meantime. Got the deck cleaned off. We'll show you how you check the deck for straightness, and how pretty easy they are to clean up as long as they're not too bad. And then also the exhaust ports, they were pretty nasty. If you follow me on Instagram or other social media, I'll post pictures of what they look like before. They were pretty rusty, and did a little port and polish on them. I'll probably do a quick tutorial on how to do that. It was just one of those spur of the moment things I started doing. So on the piston and connecting rod, you can see how long it is. We got a big Campbell soup can for a piston. This one's got a little bit of damage to the top, but should be fine. If I don't think it's fine or whatnot, I got some extra standard used pistons. I'm sure they'll make the same, or pretty damn close. So, cause oh yeah, we'll inspect the bores too. I pre-measured everything, so that way there was no craps on film. But the bores measured real good, not a lot of wear on them. I think like 5 or 6 10,000ths, and maximum allowable out of roundness is 1,000. So we're way within wear specs on those, and there's still some cross hatching left and not much of a carbon ridge. So the bores look good, and there should be no reason to reuse these old pistons with new rings and all that stuff. So these wrist pins are going to be a slip fit. You got a bolt here that's going to pretty much pull on the pin. So it's just going to be a 9/16. And you're just going to go ahead and put your connecting rod and piston in a vise. Make sure you try to at least attempt to put a rag in there. Just go ahead and slip your 9/16 in there. They're going to be pretty tight. And when we go to put these back on, normally there's a special adapter for a torque wrench that would go in there. It's kind of like an offset multiplier. I don't have one. Don't plan on buying one. It's one of those things you just use every once in a while, and we can get pretty close to the torque specs with good old bifield torque wrench. So there you go. It's the 9/16 fine thread, 3/8 fine thread, and then the wrist pin. Just get you a brass strip. They've been sitting for a while. When we go to install them, they should just go in with our fingers. I mean, it's coming right out. There we go. Go ahead and pull the wrist pin out. It slips in there nice. Just got to clean the stuff up. Here's our connecting rod, and you can see how that bolt works. It just kind of clamps, and then your wrist pin, you got a notch here for your bolt to keep everything centered in there. Then we're just going to remove the rings. Just go ahead and just peel apart your, oh, those broke off. Kind of carbon fouled a little bit. Yeah, that's broke apart in multiple pieces. Just get a lot of cleaning of the lands and grooves. A lot of cleaning. A little bit of corrosion on that one. Now don't throw away your old rings. You can use them to clean your lands and everything. So for the oil control ring, it's going to be two thin rings with the spring in there. Let's go ahead and just, a lot of corrosion on that one. This one's number 4. So if you remember from the part 2 of the teardown, that bore was the crustiest of the bunch, and the rings and piston are showing it that way too. So on these older ones, you got kind of like this octagon spring behind your second compression ring. The new spring sets don't come with these. Yeah, I don't know, really don't know what the purpose is behind these. Maybe some old timers can tell me, but no new ring set comes with them. So here we go. This one's going to be a lot of cleaning, and I'll probably mic another set I have and see if we got a good compatible replacement for this, because we got a little bit of a dent here. So some debris or something fell in here and nicked this up. These are just aluminum pistons, and let me find a cleaner one. This is the last one. I just assembled the rest of them. Here's one somewhat cleaned up. This one's number 3. So I put a stamp on the head, and that's going to orientate where the oil sprayer goes on the connecting rod. I'll go over that during the reassembly. And how you know you have an authentic Willy's piston is you're always going to have this T-relief cut here. On a proper Willy's piston, I wouldn't say authentic because the reproductions come with this. And then if you want to know if it's authentic, it'll have a Willy's embossed in there. So some of them, so you have some weight relief cuts here. See how it's squared off? This one's not. We'll weigh these later. Actually, no, I'm mistaken. Hold on. So I didn't film it, but this Jeep's had a replacement piston put in it. So this one is a old aftermarket piston. It's a old Alcoa piston. So the customer I'm restoring this Jeep for, it's been in their family since I think 1964 or 1965. So it spent about 4 or 5 years, 6 years in the hands of the original owner, and I guess between that time something happened, and the number 1 piston had to get replaced because it's not original. So there's no T cut in it. It's not stamped Willy's, it's stamped Alcoa. And also the rings and lands don't match up the same. Probably can't see it on camera, but there's a slight difference with how they line up. And also you got a notch here to indicate where the front, or what side the piston's for. Other than that, the markings on there are standard. And then 317, I don't know what that's for, and then I put a number 1 mark on it. But yeah, kind of interesting, because the whole time we were both under the assumption this Jeep's never been touched or gone through or anything. But this is kind of a pretty serious repair. And also on the number 2 connecting rod, I actually got it on the crankshaft right now. I was checking the side plate. It's got a reconditioned stamp on it. So that's very, very strange on why number 1 piston's been replaced. Number 2 connecting rod has a reconditioning stamp on it. And then just a quick spoiler, the crank pin, which on the crankshaft, that's what your connecting rods mount to, those are 40 thousandths under standard. So the crank has been machined before. When I was measuring it, this is before I noticed the aftermarket piston, I just assumed they had the new guy at the factory machining that day, and decided to just send it. And then the mains measured 20 thousandths smaller as well, so both the mains and the crank pins on that crank have been cut down. So yeah, this thing's had some pretty serious work. I don't know what happened, because the bores look fine. There's no damage to the bore other than the number 4 piston having this little bit of damage to it. You know, everything looks good. So I'm not trying to get off on too much of a tangent. I'm just trying not to forget everything. So the number 1 aftermarket piston is heavier than the factory pistons. I think by like 6 ounces, which is kind of a lot. And you know, I can just, because I wasn't sure, so I used a small postal scale because they felt different to me. So that's 6 ounces. That's gonna cause you some extra wear on the crank pin, because you know that firing mass is gonna wear different than the other pistons, and also gonna cause you a little bit extra vibration. You know, with these being such long stroke engines, it's very important. Balancing is pretty important. You know, if this was a little bit shorter stroke of an engine, it wouldn't be such a big deal. It's still important, but if you needed to get by, you know, it wouldn't hurt you too bad. But I got a spare F head that I tore down a year or two ago, and it's got a set of standard pistons in real good shape. Actually, I got one of them right here. I was miking the skirt and then the face, because pistons are tapered, so your top's going to be wider than your skirt. Your skirt's always going to be narrower. Can't really see it to the naked eye on these tin cans, but some newer pistons you can. So that's where we're at right now as far as the rotating assembly goes. The crank had a little bit of scoring on it. That might have to get taken to the machine shop and cut, but unfortunately a lot of the machine shop guys died off. I called around earlier, and a lot of those guys aren't in business or passed away, so it's kind of unfortunate. So I don't really know what we're going to do about the crankshaft. I'm going to try to buff out some of the scoring. It measured pretty good. So anyway, tangent over. But as we stand now, 2 pistons I'm going to try to replace, at least one of them. So here's our connecting rods, 3 out of the 4. A little bit of corrosion on this one. It's going to require some pretty good cleaning. All right, well, let me get these out of the way. I'll plop the head on here and we'll disassemble the head. I haven't gone through the head. Here's our head. I haven't touched it since I removed it. So we're going to go ahead and remove the intake valves. Go ahead and show you the combustion chambers. We got some kind of something or another. Won't come off the pliers. So got a valve spring compressor here. So how this works is this is going to go on your on the valve spring retainer, and then this is going to cup the back of your valve. This one's a little small. This one's on loan. I haven't managed to get one because they've been out of stock in a lot of places, and the one I have isn't really the best, and it's kind of a pain to use. So someone was kind enough to let me borrow this one. I'm just getting this set up here. Alright, round 2. So they're just a little stiff. these valves are getting replaced anyway. All this valve train stuff is getting replaced. So uh-oh. I haven't used one of these in a long time. Last one I used was pneumatic. Come on. Damn it. These valves, I'll show you when I get one out. They got like a TP shape to them. So it wants to kick out on me. It's not the tool's fault, it's just the so if we can see it on camera, the valve keepers. Go ahead and put them off in the dish. Go ahead and release this thing without killing myself. There we go. Believe it or not, these springs do have some pretty good tension on them for how old they are. So here's our spring and our retainer cup, all getting replaced. Valve stem seal, harder than a rock. And we're just gonna push our valve out. So you can see kind of that TP I'm talking about. When I probably got a set cleaned up, I'll show you better, but there's a pretty deep V in there. First glance, the seat doesn't look bad. Not too much wear, a lot of carbon buildup, but if you were, and then here's the seat. The seat don't look bad. If you were on a real tight budget, there'd be nothing wrong, I'd say, with cleaning these up and lapping them and reusing them. But this one's getting new valves. So all right, it's gonna be the same exact procedure for the rest of them, and then we'll check in once they're all out. All right, so I got them all out. See how nasty it is. It's gonna be a lot of cleaning. Combustion chambers are gonna be shiny again. The intake ports are gonna be shiny again. It's just gonna be a lot of work. I've noticed with a lot of people, they think this kind of stuff just happens in 30 minutes like they see on TV. You know, they rebuild an engine in 1 or 2 episodes, or build a whole car in an hour, and it just doesn't work like that. You know, one thing to sort of speed this up would be put it in a hot tank or ultrasonic, but that's only going to degrease it. That's not going to fully remove all your carbon and all that. That's all mainly elbow grease. So I'm going to spend half a day just on this head, cleaning out all this carbon in the intake runners and the combustion chambers. This I just poked through with my finger. This was all plugged up with just old cruddy coolant and dirt and sediment and all kinds of stuff. I mean, all this stuff has to be cleaned out. And then that's not to mention the exterior of the head. We got where the spark plugs go, you got a real hard to get to excuse me, hard to get to area. Honestly, I'm probably going to sandblast this head and then tape off the valve guides and everything, and probably sandblast it. One thing we'll check during our next phase of the video series is check the valve guides. I know I mentioned a bunch of other stuff. I can't remember everything. Valve guides, and then also the camshaft bearing and the camshaft clearances and stuff. But that's as far as I'm going to take this head down on camera. Got to let all this soak in Freol. All these drain plugs, oil plugs, this heater line, the coolant sensor line, the coolant temp sensor line, all that good stuff. Vacuum, PCV fitting, all that stuff. So I'm going to go set this off to the side, and we'll disassemble the rocker arms. Alright, so here's our rocker arm assembly. after I drop it. So you got 4 aluminum posts that bolt onto the slide onto the studs on the head, and then your 4 intake rocker arms. So you can see how dirty this thing is. I mean, this is going to be a couple hours cleaning too. And one important thing is there is oil passages in here, so the oil's pumped up from the inlet in the head through all these, and that lubricate goes through the shaft and then pushes through and then lubricates the rocker arm shaft, and then at the very tip to lubricate your valve stems. So how this comes apart, you got these 2 3/8 head bolts, and that's going to basically should make everything slide off. Probably won't since it's on camera. I'm trying to remember if the studs have to come off too. It's been a long time. Yeah, so the studs are holding on the ends. It's been a little while. They're not very tight, so you can use a stud remover or a pipe wrench, whatever you want. These are probably going to fight me. Yeah. Alright, so I had to remove a lot of the crud on the ends. Normally they just pull right off, but this thing's pretty cruddy, so just get you a soft hammer, give it some light taps, keep cleaning it, use a pick to get all the junk off. Get the oil and brake clean. I'm going to keep messing with this off camera, save some time. Alright, finally got it off. That was an ordeal. There was just so much crud buildup. The other end managed to pull off, and there's just still so much crud on here. If you're doing this at home, it shouldn't fight you this bad. It should just slide right off. Should at least. I haven't had one fight me before like this. I had to go check the book and double check there wasn't a snap ring that I forgot about. But that's all just press fit. Alright, so there is the very what word am I looking for? I guess heavy-handedly way to take this apart. There's no other way. Nothing's broke, everything's fine. Your rocker arms though are interchangeable between 1 and, let me look here, 1 and 4 and 2 and 3 are interchangeable. Oh no, got that reversed. So 2 and 4 are interchangeable, and 3 and 1 are interchangeable, by the way. There you go. So it's want from right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So wear patterns on them look real good. We're going to reuse these, nothing wrong with them. Clean them up, I'll just inspect them for cracks and then free up the adjuster. That's a big thing that gets overlooked. Make sure the adjuster's clean, and then each individual one of these, the oil port's going to get cleaned. So there's your little inner oil port, and then your big one down there. A lot of times you get overlooked and you'll wind up starving everything for oil. And then the shaft's going to get cleaned up. Just some Scotch-Brite will clean this up, get all this crud and varnish residue off. Alright, well that's the rest of the disassembly. Everything else has been filmed disassembly wise. So yeah, like I said, the next video is going to be inspecting and miking. So show you how to measure a crankshaft. We're going to weigh the pistons on camera so I can show you that, and then weigh the connecting rods, make sure they're all pretty close. So we're going to have a pretty balanced engine, as balanced as we can, without, you know, having to take it to a machine shop and all that. But you can see my hands, that's how dirty everything is and how much cleanup that's going to be, because when this goes back together, I'm expecting to have just oil, clean oil on my hands, no dirt, grease, or grime. So that's really the most time consuming thing, is cleaning and measuring and double checking everything to make sure everything's within tolerances. So alright, well, hopefully I didn't get off too much of a tangent. Hopefully there's nothing really else to explain. If you got any questions, just leave a comment. Have a good one.